Good morning. I was just feeling like doing another video, and this time we are going to look at um, how a Fuse file system is built. So I'd say let's get on it. Let's make a new directory and let's get a build sh going, which goes if the $z $cc equals cc, then then we do cc $cc use main dot c and plus the dollar, and then we do package config libs fuse. I believe this should work. Let's make a fuse include. Build. And we'll put up the feedback line. Now. Might be this. There we go, and we should have, we have an editor out. It works. And now let's look at what we can do with Fuse. I'm going to use CodeLite, my favorite IDE, for these kinds of things. There's a fuse.h file, and I'm just going to look at this header is what we have to implement. Essentially all these Fuse operations are the functions that we have to implement. The two functions we will implement to start with to get our file system going has to be get attribute that shows us if a file is just a file or directory or something else, And the other one that we have to have is reader. And with get attribute and getter and reader, we can start having a file system. So let's now go to this main, and let's say we have a, what is this thing called again? The fuse operations struct. So we have a struct, fuse operations, doesn't have the type dev, so we're going to do this. My operations, and then we can use get attr equals myfs get attr, and the other one I wanted to do is reader, and those should tell us enough actually. Okay. There we go. Reader equals myfs comma, this is find the way it is, and in the main function, what we call the fuse main, we have to do that after setting up the directory with the operations. And for now, this shall be all the functions we implement. Let's see. This is the prototype for get attr, the prototype for reader. That also requires us to get the fuse filter t, which is a function. The function pointer. Fuse filter t is this one. This one has to go above the reader. Okay. So now we remove the pointer here. We say myfs here, so here, and let's provide dummy implementation. And then we need to start the fuse. wonder where the definition of use main is. Oh, here. Okay, so this should be, since we do not want to parse anything, we just go argc argv, then we need the pointer to my operations. And then some user data, which is null for now. And we return whatever that returns. So that is all we have to do to make a file system. The file system will show 0 files exactly. Oh. First of all, this has to be changed, and that one doesn't take a user pointer. Maybe I have to define his choose version. Let's define it to 26, so it's the latest one. Yes. And now this one takes the user pointer. Now it complains about a omitted travel name, which is true. There's the path. This is, let's call it as path. I forgot what this is. This is probably the dir cookie. What's that? And that is the handler. And this is the effect. Okay. Now it builds. I can run it. And when I run it, it tells me I don't have a mount point parameter, so let me make a mount point. I now made one. I give it as parameter, and it exits immediately. Now, if I enter mnt, exactly nothing happens. Not that. I now mounted it, now I can enter it again. So when I run this, I can put output error immediately. What I can now do is I run this with debug switches. And now it'll show me what it runs on on the file system. So what'll happen is this is what happens whenever I mount a system. It looks for a trash directory, and for some reason it even looks for an auto-run-inf, which is all pretty weird. And now when I enter or try to enter this directory, let's see what happens. Because I would think that, oh, I can tell you what happens. The thing is that get attributes does not return anything. And when that happens, then that's an issue. So let's see what we would have to put in. I think we have to set at least st inode. The inode we can't know, but we have to put at least a mode and a link count. So let's think about what we even want to do. So I would like to have a file system that presents itself as having two files. So say if path equals star comp if the path is the root, I want to put as mode equals go to declaration for that. Okay, so that's just a U32. Maybe there is a man. There should be a man for that stat. Yes. There is a struct that is what that looks like. Okay. So those are our definitions for the mode, which I think we should get with a fuse include. So let's say when we get the root directory, of course, the mode is this. It's a directory, and the owner can read it. There we go. That is all I'm going to say to that. And now at least I should see this thing as a directory that I can then enter. So let's do a build. Oh well, yeah. That would be in string. Yes. Okay. Head it out. Or maybe I do it with all the debug stuff. Set mount. Okay. Now I should be able to enter mount. See that? Now that works. It has 0 faults in it. Just nothing. Which is what we wanted. So, now that we know that, let's go and do something more. So, to say that we have any file in here, we need to implement the readdir. Right, so we now say if the same thing as here. If we are reading the root directory, we want to, let me, by the way, filler, rename this into filler, and then we can do filler, and we can say my file as the name. Ooh, yeah, I think, no, this is a buffer that we fill. And that is passed to filler. So we say buff. We say my file as the name. We have to put a stat, let's say regular file, and we put offset, which is 0 in this case, and we will get to y is 0. So, and of course I now have to do a stat regular file, which is as if rec for so which is a file that we can read. Please make it static. Doesn't really matter. Structs, because there is no type dot for it. Okay. File, and the thing we want to set is called st-mode. Like that. Okay, now we should be able to build that. We are, and we can run it with our debugging things. Now we can enter amount. We can list the files that we have in here, and we will see that there is a file called myFile. However, we get an input-output error if we try to get the attributes for that file. So let's fix that. And for that we simply add another line here that is supposed to go into gear if we look at my file. All paths inside of use file system are absolute paths, which means that I have the leading slash here. This is a regular file. What I could do is just put this regular file struct as a thing here, and then I could say just regular file st-mode like that. So now that I did that, I should get the ability to do an ls, and I shouldn't get any error. Look. So now I can do this as much as I want, and I have one file in my file system. If I try to open this file, I get function not implemented, because if I want to read a file, if I want to open it, what I have to do is I have to supply the read method. So let me do that. Read equals myVas read, and then of course I have to make that one dot read star. Oh, wrong file. Here is the one I want to find. Here we go. Reads data from an open file. Looks like this. That's fine. myFS vector myFS3. Let's just put it on here, say myFS here. This is the path. This is, I believe this is the data. The size I want to read and the offset I want to read from. And this is file info, which I'm not going to do anything with. Okay. Oh, here we go. So this is pretty simple. We do this, we just ask if it is my file. And if it is my file, we just copy, copy data, and we just copy hello world and into the file. I don't think that we have to set the size of the offset. And let's see what happens. So there are a few things that can happen. Let's see which one of them does happen. So we build it, run it. We do an ls, it says endpoint is not connected. Now we have a my file, and it tells me an input-output error. Why is that? Because I have to return how many bytes I've read, and right now I'm returning garbage. I'm returning whatever is in EAX. So that's not good. So what I have to do now is to unmount this. Unmount this directory and fix my implementation to return the size. So return, in this case I return stolen hello world and else I'll return minus e no entry. And in order to be able to do that, I have to include the R numbers. So now let's do this. Let's go to mount. Now we should be able to look at my file. We are able to look at it, but this is strange. We read nothing. We read 0 bytes. Why is that? It is because we're asking for the size of the file, and back comes 0. If I go into here and I stat the my file, it has 0 bytes, right? So what we have to do is to put a size into get attribute. That's not that hard. say whenever it is my file, we say st size equals sterling hello world, like that. And now we can read that file. And I think that's it for now. That's your introduction to how to build a file system with Fuse file system in userspace. Next up, I think we're going to implement creating a file and writing a file. And for that, we will have to have our own file table, since we cannot just use hard-coded names as we're doing it here. So be excited for that.